Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01, and I'm going to call to order this public hearing, which is being held pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act to consider the following proposed bylaws. And the first one is Metchosin Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 712-2025. The general purpose of Bylaw 712 is to update the housing-related sections to integrate the district's housing needs report for 20-year housing need and housing policies respecting each provincial class of housing need. Also, to incorporate a number of housekeeping amendments, and these include updating housing policies 3.3.11, 3.3.12 to be consistent with the Agricultural Land Reserve Use Regulations, updates to OCP maps 1, 3, 6, and 7 to reflect current parcel boundaries, an update to the legal descriptions and map referenced in section 2.15 to align with current parcel boundaries, deleting the separate definition of district and update all references to use district to mean municipality of the District of Metchosin, and replacing the outdated references to provincial statutes, regulations, and sections of the Local Government Act. The second bylaw is Metchosin Land Use Amendment Bylaw number 713-2025. The general purpose of bylaw number 713 is to implement housing policies in the OCP to increase housing options. The proposed changes expand the range of permitted housing types, increase accessory dwelling unit sizes, and on agricultural land reserve parcels larger than 0.08 hectares, allow for an additional accessory dwelling unit to align with ALR use regulations. The amendments also incorporate housekeeping changes that modernize definitions related to housing revisions and replace outdated references to provincial statutes, regulations, and sections of the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws shall be given an opportunity to be heard. However, it is important that all who speak at this public hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaws, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Those who wish to speak should at the appropriate time commence your address to council and the public hearing by clearly stating your names and street name for the record. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the bylaws. It should be noted that this public hearing is being recorded and web streamed live, and the recording will be posted on the website. Members of council may, if they wish to, ask questions of the speakers following their presentations. However, the main function of council this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the bylaws with individual citizens. Again, everyone who deems their interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. Now, if you wish to provide a written submission to be included in the record of the public hearing, you must hand in the submission to the corporate officer prior to the close of the public hearing. Once the public hearing has been adjourned, council is not able to receive any further information from the public on this matter. As information, bylaws number 712 and 713 are on the special council meeting agenda for consideration later this evening. Please be reminded that there will be no opportunity to speak to the bylaws at this time. The opportunity to speak to them is now. During the course of a public hearing, the issues may lead to enthusiastic or emotional statements. Regardless whether you favor or oppose any argument, please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion. Such restraint better enables views to be expressed and heard in an impartial forum. So with that, I'm going to ask our Deputy Corporate Officer, Ms. Hanson, if she has received any additional correspondence this afternoon or prior to the after the package has been printed.
Through the chair, there has been no additional correspondence this evening.
Great. Okay. And with that, I will now turn to Ms. Johnson for a brief presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Tonight's public hearing is focused on targeted housing-related amendments, and these amendments ensure our planning documents comply with provincial requirements and address the housing needs identified in the district's housing needs report, as well as through the public engagement phases that occurred through this project. The province requires all local governments to plan for 20 years of housing needs and to ensure their official community plans include policies addressing all 7 provincial classes of housing need by the end of this year. There is sufficient capacity in the district's OCP and the land use bylaw to accommodate the new 20-year anticipated housing need. As a result, the bylaws before council tonight are not about the need to increase density. OCP Amendment Bylaw number 712 integrates the housing needs report into the OCP by adding in the 20-year housing projections, 2021 census data, revised population and housing forecasts, and updated building permit statistics. Housing policies have been added in Part 6 to address all 7 classes of housing need, including the 5 areas that were previously not represented in the OCP, which was rental, special needs, family housing, seniors housing, and shelters. A number of housekeeping updates are included to improve clarity, accuracy, and consistency within the OCP. And as mentioned previously, the district is not required to update its regional context statement at this time, as the amendments are minor and they don't affect Metchosin's role in the regional growth strategy, regional growth role. The land use amendment bylaw number 713 implements the updated housing policies by expanding housing options to better meet the identified housing needs. And key changes include permitting carriage houses as another accessory dwelling option, introducing communal seniors housing and modular homes, increasing maximum sizes for accessory dwellings, so secondary suites allowing up to 120 square meters, and detached secondary suites and carriage houses up to 90 square meters. Also allowing an additional accessory dwelling on ALR parcels that are larger than 0.8 hectares in alignment with the ALR regulations, as well as some housekeeping to modernize housing-related definitions for clarity and consistency, and replacing outdated legislative references. Important information notes have been added to the accessory dwelling unit section 23 and in the Ag and Ag 1 zones to make sure that the ALC regulations are front and center without having to separate ALC and non-ALC regulations. We have received referral comments back from the Agricultural Land Commission staff and the school district. The staff at the ALC have reviewed the housing policy changes affecting ALR lands. They have not been able to do a full review of the bylaw changes due to their busy workload, but they have appreciated the clarifying information notes that have been added into the land use bylaw, and they are satisfied with the what has been presented when the staff comments to them. The school district 62 have reviewed the materials and have advised that they have no concerns with the amendments proposed. And just an overview of the public engagement that has occurred throughout the project. In phase 1, there was a postcard mail out, an online survey, and 3 community drop-in events. In phase 2, we had a housing policy directions open house for community review and feedback. And tonight we are in phase 3, public engagement, which is the public hearing process. To conclude, the OCP amendment bylaw and land use amendment bylaws before council tonight achieve compliance with the new provincial housing legislation, and they modestly expand housing options without increasing growth or compromising the community's rural character. And this is the recommendation for council today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Okay. And as of right now, I would like to open the hearing to public input. Anyone wishing to speak may do so by addressing council by stating your name and street name for the public record. Comments will be limited to 4 minutes. You'll be given 30 seconds prior to reaching the 4-minute limit. And I once again request, whether you favor or oppose any argument, please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotions. Such restraint better enables the views to be expressed and heard in an impartial forum. I would now like to open the floor for public comment.
Sarah Anthony, Metchosin Road. What's good? Very excited to be here for this. I'm really happy about the changes that are in this package. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of things we really would have liked to see, but I think these are huge for a lot of people to be able to accommodate their families and other needs and people aging in place. And I did want to make a specific comment just because I had seen there was some concern about with the Abbey Field model. And I think I've heard kind of this expression of concern also with rental homes in Metchosin and the lack of public transportation. And of course, public transportation is very important for a lot of people who are renting, but I think a lot of people who come to Metchosin to rent or who would fit into an Abbey Field model situation are not necessarily people who are going to be relying heavily on public transportation. Like a lot of people who move out in the first place are people who have cars, they just do, or are very proficient cyclists. We see a lot of those. I'm very impressed with those people. But I think especially with the seniors, we're talking about people who are probably between the ages of like 55, 60 and like 75. They're not people who necessarily have had their driver's license taken away yet, or if they are in that situation, that's part of the beauty of living in that communal situation is they can share vehicles. You get a bunch of old hippies together, I'm sure they're going to buy a VW bus and it's going to be wonderful. And we also do have Handy Dart. We also have Cirque now does a lot with, I think, picking people up and taking them shopping and things like that. So these options are available. I don't think it's really something we should be too concerned about. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring those up. And thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Ms. Anthony. Anyone else for public input at this time? Okay.
Eric White, Metchosin Road. I just want to say I support this 100%. Anything we can do in Metchosin to make our families more resilient by providing housing options and keeping our community together by adding options for seniors, just adding options for people to have roofs over their heads without sacrificing farmland. We're on the right track. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mr. White. Anyone else for public input right at this moment?
Jane Hammond, Rocky Point Road. I too would like to say thank you very much for going through this process. I think perhaps a little reluctant at the beginning, but I think you can feel that it was well done. Now that we are close to having this turn up in the OCP, I guess I would just like to say, please don't put the brakes on. Please, you've talked about having education material for people to understand some of the changes. I would really like to reinforce how quickly that would be appreciated. And going to be quite exciting to see if we can come up with a made in Metchosin model that can be under the umbrella of being a communal seniors residence. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. M. Okay. I will call for a second time any interest in providing public input into this public hearing. Again, if you wish to speak for or against the bylaw, please address council by stating your name and street name for the public record. Great, and I will now call a third and final time. Again, if you wish to speak for or against the bylaw, please address council by stating your name and your street name for the public record.
Hello, my name is Steph Zamardi from 4734 Lysandra Road. I want to speak in favor of this too, and thank you for making these changes to this bylaw. It means a lot for multi-general purposes and other persons' scenarios, like people that want to extend their family on their property, for example. So yeah, for me, it's short, sweet, and simple. I'm really looking forward to these changes, and yeah, rather sooner than later too, so I can work on a plan to make it work for my family. So thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments for this public hearing? Just wait a few more seconds here, just to make sure people will said all that they want to say. Okay, I'll make one final call for any further public input into this public hearing. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Being there are no signs of folks wanting to provide further input, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn this public hearing. Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks so much.